All right, you guys, our last module before our first exam, not too much. You would probably be able just to get this by reading through it, but let's go through some of this together. We're talking about observational studies versus experimental studies. And I'm just going to go ahead and read this first paragraph. In any statistical study, the goal is usually to figure out the relationship between two or more variables, specifically the explanatory and the response variables. Let me talk a little bit about explanatory and response variables. Anytime you have like a graph, right? And we know that X is the independent and Y is the dependent. But in science, well, and also in math, but mostly in science, you can use a bunch of different words. One of them that you may remember our teachers talk about to remember is dry mix. Okay. And what this stands for is the X. Let me highlight this. On the x-axis, it could be either the independent variable or the manipulated variable. On the y-axis, it could be the dependent variable or the response variable. And so you've probably learned this in science, in DPS or wherever you did science. But here is one more. We have the added to the x, we have the explanatory, and added to the y, we have the response. So I'm looking at this, trying to figure out how we can add this to our dry mix. Drier mixy, drier mixy. Maybe that's just how I remember it. You don't have to remember it this way. I'm just trying to explain these new words, the explanatory and the response. All of this means is that when you're talking about something, the independent variable is the explanatory variable, normally seen on the x-axis, and the response variable is the dependent variable, normally or always on the y-axis. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is how do these variables relate to observational studies, experimental studies. An observational study is a study where the researcher does not control or manipulate, the explanatory variable in any way. So the original variable, the x-axis that we have, and simply records the response variable or the outcomes as it naturally occurred. Okay. And an experiment, obviously there's going to be some sort of experiment. What does that mean? It's where the researchers actively control and manipulate the explanatory variable and records how it may or may not elicit different responses. In this study, the samples are usually divided into groups and each group is given a different treatment. So this word is important. Treatment is like the experiment, what's happening. Okay. Both methods must start out with a random sample. I want to do a different color here. Both experiments start out with a random sample from the population. Okay, so let's look at an example. Will listening to music improve students' learning ability? Listening to music is the explanatory variable, what we know as the X, okay, what we already have. The effect on students' learning is the response variable, okay, what we'd normally think of as the Y. The outcome, X is the input, Y is the output. We sampled 2 random groups from the entire student body. If this was going to be an observational study, we would interview the students whether they listened to music and how it affected their studying. We record the responses as they are given. There's no treatment happening. If it was an experimental study, we split our sample into 2 groups, let one group study without music while the other group listens to music while studying. We record the responses from the 2 groups at the end of the study. So the treatment here is that one group is listening to music and one group is not. That's the experiment. Identify in the following, so let's look at some examples. Identify in the following cases which is an observational study and which is an experimental study. Explain why. So starting here, in order to discover which of 4 weight loss programs gets the best results, subjects are randomly selected to each of the programs. So what's happening is they are doing different programs. There is a treatment happening. This is an experiment, right? It's not like I woke up today and I decided what workout I wanted to do. Okay, they were put into different workouts. Next, in order to find out which graduates have the highest starting salaries, we gather information from graduates of Ivy League, private, and public universities. So all they do is they're interviewing these people. They're not changing which college they go to. They are just getting information. So this is an observational study. And last, a delivery company that owns a fleet of trucks performs a study to determine whether rotating tires, okay, so what's happening, they're actually doing something at specific intervals has any effect on the number of miles a set of tires lasts. So this is going to be an experiment. They'll probably have different people rotating tires at different times. All right, so this is all leading to causation. Association does not imply causation. There was and I take this really seriously because I am a really serious coffee drinker. There was a study done maybe in the 90s, 80s or 90s, and it got all of this data on people who drink coffee, and it turns out that people who drink coffee like get all of these diseases and die earlier, and so it just sounded like coffee was terrible for you. So they made it sound like drinking coffee causes all of these terrible things to happen. What they realized eventually is that the people that they were getting data from, many, in fact, most of the coffee drinkers were also smokers. Okay, so that's a lurking variable, right? All of these people were smokers, and that's what was actually causing a lot of the problem. As a matter of fact, recently there's been a bunch of studies showing all of the benefits of coffee, which make me feel better. But so that's what that means. Association does not imply causation. So there was a strong association between drinking coffee and all of these problems, right? But it wasn't the coffee that was causing these problems. Let's see, what is it saying here? It is worth mentioning again that the principle applies here. A statistical study is to study the relationship between the variables. We must be careful before making a claim that one is causing the other. Statistical studies must always be backed up with empirical data, not logical common sense. Although it's always nice to have logical common sense, but without the data, you really can't prove anything. I think about that a lot when people are telling me things. Where's the data? How can you back that up for me? Please always look that up. More data, in my opinion, more data is better. Observational studies, the explanatory variables, remember that is the input. Values are allowed to occur naturally. Because of the possibility of lurking variables, that was at smoking, those coffee drinkers who were smoking, it's difficult to establish causation because you're just interviewing or getting data. If possible, control for suspected lurking variables by studying groups of similar individuals separately. Some lurking variables are difficult to control for, others may not be identified. In an experimental study, the explanatory variables values are controlled by researchers. Treatment is imposed. Like I said, I don't get to, if we were talking about that workout one, I don't get to get up in the morning to make that decision which workout I want to do. It's whatever they tell me to do. Randomized assignment to treatments automatically controls for all lurking variables. That's really important to keep in mind. Making subjects blind avoids the placebo effect. Placebo effect, so blind means the subjects don't know what they're doing. So if they were testing a medicine, right, and they will use a placebo, which is just a sugar pill, doesn't have any medicine in it, right? But the person getting the medicine, they do not know if they are getting the medicine or they are getting the sugar pill, okay? The placebo effect just means if you're getting a pill, even if it is just the sugar pill, you might get better because you think you're going to get better. It's really interesting. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, I would suggest doing some research and looking into that. Making researchers blind. So now the researchers don't know who is getting which pill. Avoids conscious or subconscious influence on their subjective assessment of responses. Okay, so they're not, kind of like when I grade papers, I like to grade papers without looking at the names, because sometimes knowing how a student has done in the past will affect how teachers are grading their papers. In my humble opinion, I do not have data to back that up. It's just a feeling I have. I like to grade things without looking at names. A randomized controlled double-blind experiment is generally optimal for establishing causation. So both the research, that means both the researchers and the subjects don't know what they're getting, so that you can really tell if something is causing something else. A lack of realism may prevent researchers from generalizing experimental results to real life situations. Maybe you are doing experiments on rats. That doesn't necessarily mean the same thing's going to be happening with humans. Non-compliance may undermine an experiment. A volunteer sample might solve this problem. So making sure that scientists are treating the people they are experimenting on justly. It is impossible or impractical or unethical to impose some treatments. You wouldn't want to impose a treatment that is going to kill somebody or cause somebody any pain, right? So read through these. I think you'll have a good idea. The homework is just a few examples. Is this observational? Is this experimental? We can go over that in class if you have trouble with it. I would also say make sure that you understand there are going to be on the test questions just like this. So please make sure in our meetings you are asking me questions or you are reaching out to me outside of that time in order to get the best understanding.